Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo today. And today we're going to be covering in 2019 the 5 best spots in Conan Exiles. Now, I'm doing this because I've been seeing a resurgence for some games in Conan Exiles, especially because Conan Exiles was free on the PlayStation Plus. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this because I've been seeing a lot more interest in my older videos for this kind of stuff, and it's really easy for me because I've had 3,000 plus hours, especially on 2 different accounts for Conan Exiles, so it's been a lot of fun in my experience, but it might just be your first coming up experience, so these are for the people that are very new to Conan Exiles. So, first off, for what we're going to start off with is that one of the best spots is called Heatstroke Pillar. This was an old name before they called the Spider Pillar, before the big legendary like spider came into be. It's one of the best spots when it comes to the starter area. Brimstone Caves are pretty much right on the immediate east while it's going towards the swamp. Okay, so you have that level, you have all the brimstone you need, you have plenty of easy animals that are going to be available, especially if you don't really like to have the time to do it. This is really easy for you. But if you're going to be doing this on an official server, be warned, this spot will probably be taken by an alpha tribe because this is a very useful spot in this type of game. Same thing in some private servers, depending on the private server as well, though. So we're going to go to the next good spot when it comes to just an overall general spot. This is just above the dam. This is not the dam spot that's actually inside the actual waterfall and underneath it. No, this is not that spot. This spot is immediately adjacent to it, where you can build around it and you can build above the dam. Now, this spot is an apex spot for a lot of alpha tribes as well when it comes to Conan Exiles. And because this has an overall strategy, you can put your pet storage on the very top or the adjacent building, which is to your immediate north of this actual pillar, so that you can have all of your farming and everything else done. And you can actually isolate it as well, depending on how you build your structure. Again, function over arts. Artsy, artsy, arts. Okay? So just don't do it if you really don't like to have an artsy-fartsy base. So when we're going to go into the next area, which is, again, another really good spot. There's a couple of spots in the Swamp. Yes, it was called the Swamp before they called it the Swamp Jungle, whatever they want to call it, when it was the 3rd expansion to Conan Exiles. Across most of it, resources are more moderately spread out, but at the same time, they are useful in its own categories, especially if you're going to be having silver. Now, some of these trees are very vital for you, but you can't pick the wrong tree. If you pick the wrong tree, especially up there in the Swamp, they can just jump from another tree branch and then jump onto your base. Do not do this. Do not pick the middle tree. Pick the tree that's away from everything else so that it won't be trebucheted, it won't be certain things, and when you can actually put a god bubble on it, it would actually be really well. In my other popular video for my top 5 spots to build in Conan Exiles, I suggested an island. Don't. You can set off bombs underneath the water. There's plenty of things that people can exploit around, so just be very mindful because the developers have still not fixed a lot of issues when it came to this game. If you're just jumping into it, especially on PS4, if you got it for free and you wanted to actually play around with it and have some fun. Alright, so number 4, one of the better spots that you're going to be needing, especially because of all the new weapons and stuff that we've been getting, like the perma-poison weapons, a couple different modifications for different kind of setups, especially boss questing and a few other things. You're going to need to have star metal tools or just star metal in general. So one of the better spots is just a little temple that's up north. Again, it's not really the super best spot, but at the same time, this spot is very viable when it comes to having the advantage. Now, most of these bases that I've also suggested were mainly in pillar design. Now, a pillar base is pretty much one of the best things that you can do. What is the best obvious thing that you can do is that you can have beds that are up at the pillar base. you can have a bunch of sections sectioned off, and you can make sure that like you can have an area of production or just an overall, like your junk at the bottom, your explosives at top. You keep the closest resources like to you, unless you're going for a multiple resource base scattered across like most of Conan Exiles, the exiled lands. So there's going to be a few honorable mentions. Okay, so on this bridge, you can actually build right underneath, and it's very hard to raid. And because of how the bomb mechanics are and the orb mechanics are, if you put a bunch of heat stroke to this area, it will be extremely difficult because heat has still been a vertical factor on the y-axis when it comes to the plane. Anything on the x-axis is a little different because, again, it's a verticality thing when it comes to the amount of heat and on how close you can get to it. This is very important for one of the biggest things that happen inside Conan Exiles, and that is dexterity and issues with dexterity to the amount of damage and how splash mechanics have changed over the years. But in 2019, the splash mechanics had been pretty much the same, and even though like vaults are weaker and everything else, you can still build right inside 2019 so that people will have a generally really hard time to get into bases, such as this underbridge base. Now, this is one of the ones that has been the OG, but I still say it's an honorable mention because it's still a very easy raid as soon as you pop a god bubble or two, or if you try to hide a god bubble inside the bridge or something in those lines, it's a very difficult raid for you to do. Now, we're going to go into the last one, which I think is still endgame level, endgame content, and that is inside the volcano. Now, besides the multiple pillars that are around the volcano, there's also other subterfuge areas. Now, this is so that you can control demon blood in most of your areas, as well as crystal farming at the same time that you can be doing, even though there is one big crystal cave on the map, which is the OG area where the imp cave is. There's still the process of you going through everything else. Now, the reason why I say that this is one of the strongest spots is that you have to make sure that they have to wear Defari. Okay, they can't be wearing medium, like just regular shaman armor or one of the DLC armors that they have been wearing to have extra strength. They must wear Defari or heavy in order to accommodate that level if they're going for pure strength or PvP builds or something like that. As well as when you're dealing with thralls in this kind of area, this is why I say that this is still one of the strongest areas because of server lag and delay on top of everything else. Because we have not yet to get that actual package, because on how pathing is discovered with AI is that they have every individual thing will be mapped from every individual person, and it's heavily single-threaded. So when you're going into fights, especially in the volcano, and you are having a thrall follow you, they will accidentally kill themselves often. So offending players that are going to be attacking you with animals, with like just any kind of thrall equipped or anything in that kind of caliber, because before there was mainly big issues when it came to explosives onto thralls before they limited it to have an inventory of arrows in the thralls. So now that we have this category, it's very highly defensive in property if you already have a base up there in the volcano in multiple areas. Now, I'm not mentioning glitch spots or anything else like that, even though they do exist inside Conan Exiles, because most of them have been patched out through the years, just the pass area, that little tube that was recent, like not recently, but it was patched a while ago. There was a lot of things that were patched, especially for glitch spots, but they can still get in different ways. This is why this is not in the top one situation, because exploit spots should not be given as a cameo to stand on in any regard. So that's why I consider a volcano base on top of every other base to be one of the strongest spots, especially when it comes to defense. If you prepare properly, if you got to make sure that you have all of your defenses in order so that people can't go in there. People can die inside lava, whether it comes to if they try to glitch over it, they could possibly die and lose all the inventory. Or, here's the other thing. They can actually lose because of the lag while it's jumping onto the lava itself. So the lava is not only a passive, but it's also an active ability when it comes to having proper defense when it comes to it. Yes, it can be mitigated in a few ways when it comes to glitches. But again, not everybody's going to have that ability to do that on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. Mainly it's more on PC nowadays, but again, I've been mainly worrying about most of this stuff. A lot of the stuff has not changed since I made the last concurrent videos for Conan Exiles. So if you guys like this kind of stuff, please leave a like, leave a comment down below. And if you really like my stuff, there's the Patreon as well. And have a good one, guys.